the opposite.
How productive do you think this episode will be?
A few minutes later.
First here, there was like they
There is
made
so
everybody
much dog
isolate.
happening right now.
There's a lot of dogs.
Folks, if you haven't watched the show on YouTube yet, even if you don't fucking use YouTube, it is worth going there right now because there's
puppies
a
are getting
dog
big.
orgy happening in the middle of this conversation. And before we started this, Taylor was like, is this going to be productive? And I was like, yeah, totally. And now I'm literally watching two dogs fuck each other
Dude,
on
this is
the
insane.
table.
It's kind of cute.
This is
It's hilarious.
Dude, this is insanity.
I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Rupert, hey.
Guys, I read this article and it gave me night sweats. This is about COVID-19. Have you guys heard of it? You guys familiar with this COVID-19?
With COVID?
COVID-19.
You hear about this thing?
I've heard
of novel
Yeah.
coronaviruses in general.
Yeah. So COVID-19, also known as SARS-CoV-2, it's this thing that's been just sweeping the planet, been taking over the world. It's what we refer to in the biz as a global pandemic.
shit.
Oh.
And it's been affecting everything around the world. You name any kind of business sector, you name any kind of way of life, you name anything at all, it's been affected by COVID in some way.
For how long?
Oh, it's been a couple of years now.
Shit.
Where the fuck have I
But
been?
a big way that COVID has affected the planet, and kind of a fascinating way, is like how it's affected the world of dating and like sexuality. This article, oh man. So this article was from the BBC. A Chinese woman stuck in lockdown with blind date.
I feel like we have some heavy hitting articles today.
We got a couple good ones. So a swift COVID-19 lockdown in China has reportedly led to a woman getting stuck at the house of a man she met on a blind date.
Listen, I don't want to judge when I first hear this headline, but I can't help but think that this could just be like a psychopath type person that is like making the excuse that the lockdown is keeping them there. They're like the type of person that you meet on the first date, and they're like,
Well,
they're like,
no, dude, it happened.
well.
It happened in China.
yeah, well, I
never
mean,
mind. You're right.
so
Yeah,
so
that's right.
to that point, we're actually going to get into the situation in China right now, which until doing the research for this episode today, I didn't realize what precautions and rules that they've implemented over there, and it's
extraordinary.
really extraordinary. Yeah. So this is a story that kind of dives into that a little bit. We'll get to we'll get to that in depth further in the episode. But a woman, only identified as Miss Wang, posted on Chinese social media platform WeChat last week that she had got locked down with her date after visiting his house for a meal. In the post, she said that she had recently returned to the city of Zhengzhou from Guangzhou ahead of the Lunar New Year.
It's funny because every time I hear those city names, I'm like, that's where my mom worked. And then I hear the next city name and I'm like,
And you're
or
like,
it
oh,
might have
wait,
been
was
that
it there?
one.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
it's
right.
Guangzhou, Guangzhou. It's all,
She said,
Actually.
You gotta keep your Jews straight.
she said, quote, "I'm getting quite old, so my parents arranged more than 10 blind dates for me." That sentence is so fascinating to me.
But that's I mean, in the realm of cultures and how marriages and relationships form,
Yeah.
that's like kind of down the middle
But it's
on the spectrum.
Like, can you imagine? I cannot begin to imagine me as a 34-year-old man and being single and my mom calling me going, "Hey, Jer, just so you know, I need you to block off January 28th, February 7th, February 20th, March 3rd. I've set up 4 dates for you.
also,
And you need to be at those." Like, that
isn't it, man,
makes me giggle and cringe and
did you say 10 blind dates?
10
too?
blind dates,
'Cause,
which
like,
is a fuckload of dates.
it's
dude.
actually sad because then your parents, you know that your parents think that you won't have the ability in like 4 blind dates to find a partner. So they have to set up 10 for you.
Or
It's a numbers
well,
game.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I feel like 10's kind of like, hey, here's a giant pool of opportunity to choose from. I see it a bit of a different way, but yeah, I just find that so wild. But again, cultural differences, you know. She said, so that's what she said. She wrote that her 5th date had said, quote, he was good at cooking and invited me to his house so he could cook a meal. Sounds like a lovely catch. However, during the meal, she discovered that her date's community had gone into swift lockdown due to cases of COVID-19 and ended up being unable to leave his house for several days.
I mean,
How?
I mean, it's just
How?
like a totally like. I mean, again, I know we're gonna touch on this quite a bit in the show, but this is like what strikes me as so strange in this is when if I had read that headline in March, April, May, maybe even June of 2020, I'd go, yeah, that makes sense. Like, that's not crazy to me. In the sense
Right,
that,
because
like,
at that point in our lives, we were looking at COVID
we knew nothing.
through the lens of like the Matt Damon film Contagion.
Totally. And
Right?
like,
Yeah.
you don't know how many people are, you don't know if
We didn't know.
you don't know if
we didn't know if we'd be alive. Today.
Yeah, you don't know if 10%
Yeah.
of people are going to die. Like, you don't know what the damage is going to be.
Yeah.
So there was obviously a lot of precautions. And now looking at that situation, especially from the context of how, most of the world is handling it now, although there's obviously variation in that, this is very much like, this is start of the pandemic sort of like approach
Yeah.
to.
But guys, let's talk about it for a second, because like let's talk about like what we think really happened, though, because imagine it when you first hear there was like they
There is
made
so
everybody
much dog
isolate.
happening right now.
There's a lot of dogs.
Folks, if you haven't watched the show on YouTube yet, even if you don't fucking use YouTube, it is worth going there right now because there's
puppies
a
are getting
dog
big.
orgy happening in the middle of this conversation. And before we started this, Taylor was like, is this going to be productive? And I was like, yeah, totally. And now I'm literally watching two dogs fuck each other
Dude,
on
this is
the
insane.
table.
It's kind of cute.
This is
It's hilarious.
This is insanity.
They love each other. But let's talk about what really happened, because when I first hear lockdown, like you have to isolate in place, I wonder like how did that information get communicated to those two people while they were having dinner together?
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, that what happened was they got like an emergency alert on their phones, like sort of like we have here from time to time.
That's probably pretty likely.
So if they got that emergency alert, if you
in the middle
were-
of making a beautiful pasta,
but if you okay, well wait,
half a bottle of wine down,
if you got that emergency
feeling
alert,
slightly horny already.
if you got that emergency alert and you were on a date and you had to rank the date from 0 to 10, at what point would you go home no matter what, even if you got that emergency alert? So
I think the
if
point
it-
of this whole thing is that there is no matter what. It's you have to stay here, and
You
there's
suck.
do you- but who's stopping? But like,
Oh,
I understand.
Okay,
Dude,
So to that point, Brian,
people
who's
are
stopping
stopping.
you? Yeah. We'll get to that. So save this question until we get to the story that's further in the episode, and then let's circle back to this thought.
Dude, there
Okay.
there was a story, and I don't have the facts completely. I don't know the whole story off the top of my head, but some of the key points of it were, this is from like a week or two ago, because China has a zero COVID stance. Like if a case of COVID happens, they will shut down an entire city. And
Yeah.
like, as you know, cities that you've never heard of in China have 10+ million people in it.
Yeah.
And there are those cities all over the place that are shutting down completely. Like, you can't leave your house. And there was a building that got shut down several weeks ago, and they were supposed to have every 2 days they could leave their house to go get groceries, and then after like 4 or 5 days they decided to axe that, and they were relying for 3 weeks on government workers delivering
Delivery.
food supplies
Yeah.
to a building of like 10,000 people.
Yeah, and again, we'll get deeper into this in the story later in the episode, but it's wild.
But man, I honestly, I still, because I understand what you guys are saying. Like I'm picturing, when you describe this, I'm picturing like the scene in like V for Vendetta. You know, when like they are like enforcing the lockdowns in V for Vendetta, and like nobody's allowed out on the street, or they could be like
So long
killed.
since I've seen it.
So I'm picturing like that type of scene. But even so, man, if I was on a date and it was like below a 5 out of 10, even if I knew there was a chance that I was going to die if I went
Yeah.
outside, I would do whatever it would take to get the fuck
Yeah.
home.
Well, Miss Wang told media on Sunday that she had been stuck for 4 days at her date's house, and the situation was, quote, not ideal.
I think the date was going well.
Not ideal.
However, she said that her date had cooked every day for her while they were stranded together. She added, though, that, quote, he doesn't speak much. That is my favorite quote of this entire article. It is unclear whether she still remains stuck at her date's house. However, cases of COVID-19 have persisted in Jiangsu in recent days. There have been more than 100 cases of COVID-19 in Jiangsu over the past week, which that number is far lower than I was
12
expecting to.
million people in that city.
It is wild. Non-essential businesses were ordered to close on Tuesday in the city, and there have been large-scale COVID-19 testing drives rolled out to the city's 12.6 million residents for any, quote, silent COVID-19 carriers. China has a zero COVID-19 policy, meaning that swift lockdowns are routinely imposed in communities when cases of the virus are detected. Ms. Wang is not the only person in recent weeks who has found herself caught unawares amid lockdown measures being swiftly enforced. Last month, a man found himself locked down in the middle of a house move in the northern city of Jiang. He told media he hadn't even been allowed to finish collecting luggage from his car, and so had to ask neighbors if he could borrow a duvet. Again, we're going to get into it a little bit deeper later in the episode, but I don't know if how much of this is. I know that a lot of this, a big part of the sort of lockdown measures, have to do with the Olympics coming to China and in Beijing in, I guess, like it's just a couple of weeks. But it is a wild situation over there, and it really is like it reminds me very much of it reminds me of very very much of like those sort of dystopian type like environmental like thriller movies, you know, like
the day after tomorrow.
Yeah, that kind of shit. You know, it's really wild. Wow. Okay, dogs just literally just kicked the camera. Let's go to that camera.
Let's
go to that camera and see. Look at the framing of that. Oh my god. Yeah, that's good enough. But yeah, I love that. I love that story. I mean,
You love that?
I do. I do. Like, how good is that story? You know, like I love thinking about past dates, good dates, bad dates, and thinking about the stories that come with those. And that's a story that would definitely top the charts on like Reddit's like Tinder nightmares, our Tinder nightmares or whatever.
That's definitely that's definitely a very kind of happy go lucky, even though the woman said it's not ideal. Like, I think that there was a degree of like, this wasn't ideal, but I can see the humor in the fact that we were on a blind date and we got stuck and everything. And then at the same time,
how amazing would it be if they ended up getting married?
Right.
You know, like if it wasn't for that situation, maybe the date would have been like lackluster. It's like he was a good cook. He cooked a nice meal, but he didn't talk a lot on the date. And I feel like we didn't have like a lot of like, we didn't have shared interests. And so we just never went on a date again. Right. That could have been the situation. Right. But then they actually go on this date. They're stuck in a house for 4 days. And like, it takes 3 days for him to break out of his shell. And then all of a sudden on the third day,
he's incredible.
She's like, oh my God, like we are fucking soulmates.
Match made in heaven.
And they never would have known if it wasn't for COVID-19.
So let me bum you out for a second. Imagine now when you have a city, I mean, like imagine this. I mean, you can imagine this in Halifax and like we have what, 500,000 people in Halifax, like HRM as a whole.
1 million people in Nova Scotia now.
And this city has 12.5 million people in it. Imagine at any given moment at which a sudden lockdown where you cannot leave where you are occurs, how many horrible interactions are occurring at that moment.
Oh, absolutely.
And then you can't go anywhere.
You can't get away from it. Yeah. I mean, I like, to be really serious for a second. It's things like this that could very easily lead to, a really dangerous situation.
Oh my God. Yes.
Being present for someone and them having no way out.
That's one of the biggest there's been a massive rise in domestic abuse cases
Yeah.
since the start
Yeah.
of COVID-19
Totally.
because of the stress that
Yeah.
COVID-19 has caused, because of the fact that people have been forced to be in isolation.
Yep.
Yeah.
In bad situations
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
an extended period
Especially
of time.
that first year.
Yep. And with all that said, I still like to think about. I still like to romanticize the idea of the situation
Yeah.
between these two. And again, they said in the article, we still don't know if she's still there. And I'm hoping that she is still there and that they are on their way to having.
A wonderful.
I guess
life
only
together.
one kid. What's the deal? Like, can they have more than a kid?
It's 2 now, and it's soon to be 3.
Wow.
That wasn't a
hopefully-
joke.
Hopefully 3
No,
children.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
I read
but
that. I read that today because I read an article today about China's population the population growth has slowed for the 5th straight
Dwindling.
year.
Yeah.
And it's hard
And-
for them to amass the people for their army.
This is the woman,
It
by
would-
the way. And the other thing is, I can't tell if
Oh my
like
God, she's
if
just cute as a button.
she is, and I can't tell if this is like an interview that she's doing on the news. Like
Yeah,
She's
At
in the
his
house.
house.
and she's like, he's not a talker.
he's in the kitchen.
He's
right
not
now.
much of a talker, but man, he's got a mean wonton
Oh,
soup
boy.
happening in
Yeah.
the background.
What if she was actually the dangerous one and she'd actually murdered him and
Hey.
he was just lying on the floor in the
It's
background
very
and nobody
possible.
knew?
It's very
right?
possible. Yep.
You never know.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's a different. You can hear that story on a different podcast because we don't do true crime. But check out Morbid Podcast. There's a little plug for a show you might like if you're into that shit. Here's another crazy story. This is. Have you guys heard about this thing, COVID? You guys familiar with COVID?
Vaguely.
COVID-19. It's. I mean, long story short, it's a pandemic that's been just engulfing the planet for the last 2 years.
I
But
think you mentioned that earlier.
yeah, so
right.
the Army vaccine could protect against COVID-19 and all future coronaviruses. This is. I found this to be so fascinating. So
This is
sounds
starting to feel like crypto. You know, like everybody's got their own coin. Now
This
everybody's
is-
got their own vaccine.
This is starting to feel like an Iron Man movie.
we really are living in a waking living nightmare.
This is a Marvel
I
film.
don't want to be alive for much longer.
I actually hate this headline.
Oh, dude.
It actually makes me mad.
so-
I don't give a fuck if it's good or not. Like,
You know what,
I'm like,
though?
ugh,
It
I'm
is really
tired.
interesting. So the Army, and this is the U.S. Army. The Army is gunning for COVID-19, but it's
I like
also
that.
it's also aiming much higher with its SpFN vaccine, which I think might actually be pronounced SpFN vaccine. White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci. You guys heard about this guy? You know Anthony Fauci?
Yeah.
Anyway, long story
Tony-
short,
yeah,
he's
yeah.
the White House
Tony
Chief Medical
Tony
Advisor.
is the science.
He recently underscored the government's investment in a universal COVID-19 vaccine
What does that mean?
that could successfully combat all variants.
Okay.
So the Pfizer vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, they were made to combat SARS-CoV-2, the OG, the big mama that came out a couple of years ago, but then we started seeing variants like the Delta variant and the Omicron variant. But those vaccines weren't accounting for these variants. Whereas the SpFN vaccine is meant to be what's referred to as a pan. What do they say in here?
Pan viral.
Pan. We'll get to it.
Pangeal.
But yeah. Pan
That actually be
pan
good.
a pan coronavirus vaccine. That's what it is. Coronavirus vaccine. So on NBC on Thursday, Fauci said that there was a concerted effort to develop a universal COVID vaccine that, quote, would mean that the initial vaccination would cover all of the variants, so you wouldn't have to worry. Quote, we want a pan coronavirus vaccine so that you have it on the shelf to respond to the next viral pandemic, Fauci said. Ultimately, you want to get a vaccine that covers everything. That dream of a universal vaccine is exactly what researchers at the U.S. Army's Walter Reed Army Institute of Research, which is shortened down to WRAIR, which if I was to pronounce that, I would say RAR. Have been working on for the most. They've been working on this for the past year. In December, the U.S. Army announced that its pan-coronavirus vaccine, the spike ferritin nanoparticle COVID-19 vaccine, aka SpFN, has completed phase 1 of its human trials with very positive results. So Dr. Kayvon Mogerard, director of the infectious disease at RAR and co-inventor of SpFN, told Defense One, quote, "We're testing our vaccine against all the different variants, including Omicron, the strain causing breakthrough infections even in people who have received booster shots. SpFN still needs to undergo phase 2 and 3 trials, human trials specifically, though, to test its efficiency and safety in comparison to other current treatments," Mo Gerard said.
I don't get it. How do you create a vaccine? I mean, this has to have been the goal for the flu shot.
Yeah.
There's a different flu shot every year because the flu is different every year, not because you need another shot to protect against the same flu.
So they don't really get into this, but they do talk about how this vaccine is different from the other ones. And when I read that, it actually brought up what it made me think about something that I had wondered long ago why we weren't doing this. So
I'm glad that you said that, Jared, because when Taylor asked that question, I was like, there's no fucking way that I can answer
well,
that.
like,
For you.
again, I don't know if this
I
is
know.
the-
I'm sorry, Brian. I wasn't asking you specifically, or Jeremy. Really, I was
Yeah,
just
rhetorically.
I was just
throwing it out.
rhetorically asking the question to the ether.
Yeah, so they go on to say that the 3 vaccines authorized right now for use in the U.S. take 2 approaches to preventing COVID-19. So you've got the Pfizer and Moderna, which use mRNA, and the whole idea of mRNA is that it builds up immunity, while the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which is not here in Canada, uses a harmless rhinovirus to train the body's immune system to respond with COVID-19. But the spike ferritin nanoparticle COVID-19 vaccine, or SpFN, takes a third approach, which is using a harmless portion of the COVID-19 virus to spur the body's defenses against COVID-19. Now, before all this mRNA talk, because to be honest with you, like before COVID-19, doing the show for 5 years or whatever it was at that time, maybe 4.5 years, I had never heard the term mRNA.
Mhm.
I had no idea about any of the science like that. That was all so new to us when, and I think for most people across the planet,
it wasn't even in use for humans.
it was
before.
like in the early
COVID.
stages of being developed, right?
Well, it
So-
was being developed for like 30 years.
Yeah,
Yes.
it,
Yes,
it was in research for a very long time, but it hadn't been used in humans until the vaccine.
Yes.
I had always thought that vaccines typically use this approach, which is taking a portion of whatever the disease is and sticking it in you.
That's how they
I
started.
think the rhinovirus method that the J&J vaccine takes is also
A similar approach.
popular.
It takes a certain type of virus that's harmless and injects it into the body. Whereas this does that with COVID-19.
Right.
So a rhinovirus and COVID-19 are two separately different things.
Yep.
So this is literally taking a harmless portion of COVID-19, sticking it into you. Now, I don't know, but to me, that as some fucking ding dong who doesn't know a goddamn thing about really much at all, other than projecting my voice louder than most. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. That taking a harmless portion of COVID-19 would sort of give you this umbrella protection of anything that falls under SARS-CoV-2 and the variants that would like spread out from that.
Yeah. I mean, that's always
But I
been
don't
my
know.
rudimentary understanding of vaccines before the whole world all of a sudden wanted to become a fucking expert on how vaccines are produced.
There's a really good.
I never spent much time really thinking about vaccines and how they're made and what they do other than understanding that they work.
There's a really good Radiolab episode about that. The guy who invented, came up with the first vaccination. I can't remember his name, but he subsequently made like 160 different vaccines after that, using the same method, which is similar to what you guys were just talking about. The crazy thing to think about though is like where our understanding dissipates is like. And I guess the question is like, when you think about, if you think about the fact that it's more complex than just doing that, what makes it so hard and why did it take so long? Like, why does it take so long to develop vaccinations? And if it is as easy as like our lay person's understanding of like just, taking out what makes the virus infectious and then putting it in somebody so they can build up resistance to it or build antibodies. If it was as simple as doing something like that, then like why what makes scientists uncertain if they'll even be able to vaccinate against a particular virus, like when COVID-19 first appeared. So it's obviously like a super complex issue that like, you know, we don't,
because there's
we don't
thousands of
understand,
things
but,
that
like,
we have that make us sick that we can't protect ourselves against.
I
Right.
wonder why. I wonder why this approach. So again, like we were saying, that this is what we thought most vaccines were sort of based on, like this skeleton structure of taking whatever the thing is that's making you sick, reducing it down. You know, like taking the homeopathy approach, which is like watering it down to like 0.00001% effectiveness, and then jam it in you. Do we know why, or if you're listening and you know why, please letters@sickboypodcast.com. Why we didn't focus on that approach as opposed to like pushing forward this new tech in quotes mRNA.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know
why.
I don't. There was I can't recall the information. I'm certain that they talked about it. I believe his name is Paul Offit. He developed the what's the disease called? It sounds like the rotavirus. It sounds like roti bread. The rotavirus. And he developed the vaccine for that. He's like he's you know like a massively prominent scientist in the US. He was on Peter Attia's podcast several months ago, and they talked about basically like the history of vaccines and like the different approaches that you can take to developing a vaccine, and why one approach is better than the other in certain cases, and like why a certain disease or illness might merit a different approach. Like they kind of went into that whole thing, and I can't remember the name of the episode, but I'm almost certain it's Paul Offit on Peter Attia's podcast, The Drive.
I mean, the guy who would know is Harvard Bruce, who we had on the podcast to talk about mRNA vaccines. He would probably be able to tell you. He'd probably be able to give you an answer.
Yeah, maybe if you can have a conversation with him. The one thing that I mentioned has the answer within it, and it's already recorded and produced.
Yeah, no. I was saying that we should have Bruce back on the podcast.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
You just said a name of a past guest that I don't.
We talked to him about.
Donut just ate a piece of carpet.
Guys, I fucking
Dude.
hate talking about COVID. Can we not talk? Let's make a pact to not
Donut,
talk about it.
don't-
It can be very annoying.
For like another
Pull that out
4
of his
weeks.
mouth.
It can be
Please
very
pull that
annoying.
out of his mouth, will you, please, for the love of God? Your intestines are already fucked, buddy. You've devoured an entire Nylabone this week. I agree, Brian. I agree, but unfortunately, I've got a bunch more COVID shit.
Yeah.
Actually, this is just a COVID episode.
I go in waves. Like there's periods where I'm like, I don't want to hear a fucking thing about
I'm
it.
cool with the interesting stuff, but I don't give a fuck about anything if it's not funny or interesting right now.
I agree.
I'm interested
I agree.
when there's new information to
Yeah.
consider. But if it's just like if we're talking about the same, if it's just an argument over the same
Yeah,
shit that
dude,
we've been
that-
arguing with
Jesus
3 or
Christ,
4 months
that
ago.
shit drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Just to finish this SpFN, which actually I don't even know if it's pronounced SpFN, but they write a capital S, lower P, capital F, capital N, SpFN. It's also less restrictive storage wise, and so this is kind of interesting. So storage and handling requirements are much less restrictive than Moderna and Pfizer, allowing it to be used in a wider variety of situations. So it can be stored between 36 and 46 degrees Fahrenheit for up to 6 months, at room temperature for up to 1 month. And according to military scientists, that's according to them. But Pfizer vaccine requires ultra cold freezer, so between minus 112 and minus 76 degrees Fahrenheit for shipment and storage, and is only viable for 31 days when stored in a regular
Guys,
refrigerator.
I don't know how you feel about this, but honestly, I feel like I can't possibly trust military scientists.
Yeah, did you ever watch Planet Terror?
No, I haven't. But it sounds like something that would make me further not trust.
I actually
military
haven't
scientists.
seen Planet Terror.
Oh,
I know.
dude, let's watch it here this weekend.
I will.
It's a part of the
Yeah,
here's a little break from COVID. It's a part of the
Fuck yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Planet of the Apes.
Tarantino.
Well, yeah, but it was a grindhouse It was a part of the Grindhouse double bill that was released years ago with Planet Terror and Death Proof.
Death Proof.
And it was these two Grindhouse style films that Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino made.
Sweet.
And Planet Terror is a zombie comedy horror, where the military accidentally releases a gas that turns people into zombies. And of course there's just incredible scenes of violence.
It sounds kind of like the plot line for the Strange Brew with Bob and Doug McKenzie,
little bit.
except instead of the military releasing it, it's this group that takes over a brewery,
Molson.
and they're
I don't know what this is.
What?
Strange Brew.
You've never
dude?
seen Strange Brew?
Is this a movie?
Oh, dude,
Oh my
yes,
god! It's a movie of
so
Bob and Doug
good.
McKenzie. It's from like
It's
the
so good.
80s.
You
I guess.
definitely know it. It's like a
With
cultural
Rick
like,
Moranis and
Wow, guys,
dude,
I've
and,
never heard of this movie.
You've never heard of it?
No.
Holy shit, dude! The
Oh,
plot
I'm so
is
excited.
It's
is
very
that they
funny.
they put
Oh yeah, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
I know these guys.
they basically put like
the
mind
SCTV
control
guys.
Yeah.
mind control juice in beer, and their goal is to like basically mind control the entire
Yeah.
population of
loosely
beer
based
drinkers.
on elements of Shakespeare's Hamlet.
very loosely.
dude, that is amazing.
We should have our own double
Yeah.
bill this weekend and do that
Fuck yeah.
and Planet Terror.
We should have a movie night with our patrons and watch those.
We
That's a
should
good idea.
actually. Speaking of
Um,
which,
Well, we'll get to that. Just to finish this off, so the vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson all target the specific SARS-CoV-2 that causes COVID-19. But Army scientists designed their vaccine specifically to be pan-coronavirus, meaning it could protect against future strains of COVID as well as all other coronaviruses.
But how do they know
like-
that?
I mean, science and the strong arm of the military. You know, like this vaccine has bullets, dude.
dude,
I mean,
It's just guns.
they can
It's
drone
just
strike.
guns and needles.
They
man.
can drone strike specific people
without a human.
without a human and other. Why? So if they can do that with unmanned aerial vehicles, why can't they like look
Yeah.
at the virus and
and
attack
the
it? you know?
drone strikes are just incredibly accurate.
Well, they're not. They kill lots
Right?
of civilians all
Yeah,
the time.
yeah,
but yeah.
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 So
That's actually that makes me as sad as that first story of the woman being locked at her date's house.
just as
Wow.
Probably, I mean, both of them make me really sad.
the
so-
first one made me so happy. The second one made me feel actually kind of hopeful, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
God, drone strikes make me just as sad as a blind date.
Here's a really wonderful announcement that will make everyone feel great. We are opening up our Discord to the public.
This actually makes me really excited.
This is really fun. So for folks who aren't aware, Discord is a phenomenal, basically social media platform that offers a space for communities to come together and communicate. And we have had a Discord now. Our Discord channel has been open for the past, I don't know, maybe like 3 years, and it's exclusively been for our Patreon community. So we have this small, tight-knit, really loving community that we've built on Discord, where all of our sweet potatoes, which is what we refer to our patrons as, in that place we have just general discussions where we're talking about fucking whatever. There's places for people to post pictures of their pets, or there's a whole like amazing book and movie recommendation channel.
Speaking of the bad dates, there was a COVID-19
which is all about bad dating in
There's a space
COVID-19 days.
to share like some of the gnarliest medical things
Graphic
that you
content
find on
channel.
the internet.
Yep. And so we decided that this little community, which is right now only exists with our Patreon members, it's brought us so much joy, and I think it's brought a lot of the people that are a part of that community a lot of joy. I mean, we've seen a lot of really amazing things happen in that community. When folks are going through a hard time, it's a place that they turn to make connections and share their experiences and feel connection with others, especially with folks who align with the conversations that we have on the show and understand the challenges faced with living with illness or knowing someone that lives with illness. I mean, we've had people that have met and started dating on our Discord, which is wild to think.
So it's like kind of like a Tinder.
It's kind of like Tinder.
Sort of? Kinda like Tinder?
Yeah.
We've had people who have met and started dating and then came to Thanksgiving family dinner with me on
Yeah, right.
Discord.
Yeah, I mean, Brian's visited Mel, a future Sick Boy guest.
fuck, I
We're
love
having Mel
Mel.
on the show soon. But Mel in Salem, who Mel was very, very vocal on our Discord. So it's a wonderful community, and we feel really proud about it. And we felt like, why not open up this community to the public? So we can, if you're a listener and you're not supporting us on Patreon, but you want to be a part of something so special, you can do that now. And you can join our Discord, which is open to the public. Little caveat, there will be channels that are actually locked and closed off just for our patrons that are exclusive to them. Things like the Feel Good Friday content channel, which, some of our patrons have been using to send us content that they want to hear on these episodes, amongst other things like community events that we hold every single month. Those things will be locked off, but open to the public, there's going to be the general chat and a number of other channels that are just really fun to be a part of. So if you want to be a part of our Discord, it is open to the public. You can click on the link in the show notes of this episode if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can find the link on YouTube in the comment section below, or you can just go to our Instagram, go to our link tree. You can find the link there. It will take you to our Discord. If you've never used Discord before, it's the UI is very user friendly, super simple.
Yeah.
One click, sign up with your email. And
if you've never
you're
used
in.
Instagram before, it's a photo sharing platform. You can get it in the App Store.
Actually, Discord's it's so user friendly. Even Taylor can use it.
Yeah. Yo, before we move on to this,
and I don't even have a smartphone.
Before we move on to this,
I'm surprised you do actually.
yeah, me too. Sometimes. All right. So speaking of COVID and speaking of lockdowns and speaking of Omicron, that we're gonna come back to that story that I mentioned earlier about what's going on in Beijing. Again, I think this is so interesting. So Beijing locks down office building with workers still inside after a single Omicron case detected.
Well, that's good because then, they can be efficient and continue to get stuff done.
In Hong Kong, this is from CNN. At an office building in China's capital on Sunday, masked COVID control personnel lugged boxes of pillows and bedding through the closely guarded entrance for white-collar workers stuck inside, preparing for what may be days of lockdown as Beijing rushes to prevent the spread of Omicron ahead of the Winter Olympics. So again, this is literally a scene from like one of those movies that I was talking about earlier. Like this is Contagion. A bunch of people show up. Can you imagine showing up to your, you're an accountant for a fucking for some startup company, and you show up to your office in just wearing your button-down shirt, your tie, your slacks, and that one day you there was no clean underwear, so you borrowed your wife's thong, and all of a sudden at lunchtime you go to step out for a smoke, and there's a bunch of like the scene from E.T., all these dudes in
hazmat
suits.
Yeah.
You step outside, there's just a tube connected to the door, and the tube goes somewhere you don't know. And it's just like everything sounds like it's on the radio. Like they're like, he's coming out for a smoke, grab him.
There's so many
Can you imagine
things.
that shit?
There's so many things that I mean, first of all, what I don't get about China's approach in general is that the global consensus is COVID is not going away. Like I don't think there's any rational body of science on the planet right now that thinks that COVID is like going to fully disappear. It's short of 100 years from now. And so I don't get the like one case is too much approach. That makes no sense to me. But then further than that, with the Olympics coming up, I mean, there's gonna be lots of COVID going around.
Lots of COVID and lots of herpes.
Because there's people there's going to be COVID. I mean, that's just that is, I mean, sorry to burst anybody's bubble out there, but like that is the way of the world now.
Yeah.
If you have events, people will get COVID there. And I'm not saying that as like a don't
not
do
necessarily
don't,
true. I
don't-
had a birthday party here at the office, and there was about 8 people, and
yeah, but if
no
we
one
had
got COVID.
but if
you
we
know?
had
we nailed that.
yeah, but
That's
if
true.
but
Yeah,
if we had
fuck
a
yeah.
if we
What's up? Fuck yeah.
if we had a $30 billion if we had a $30 billion 2-week birthday party, then with millions of people coming in,
Honestly,
then
the casualties would be worth it for a $30 billion 2-week birthday party.
like
Yeah.
there's gonna be
Yeah,
COVID.
that'd be
so,
fucking
so
sick.
how do they justify? Like I think that they should. I think the Olympics should happen, but I don't understand how they justify the two worlds, like the two, like where they have a building that has one case of COVID and they lock the building down, and then the Olympics where there will of course be cases of COVID that go around, and
Well, especially when we're talking about Omicron, dude. Like this snap lockdown meant the building in the west of the city was sealed off without advanced warning.
Mm.
So there was no like, oh, check your phone. Like there was no advance warning, with everybody inside unable to leave and subject to compulsory COVID testing. The decision to lock the office came down after an employee tested positive for Omicron on Saturday, which was Hong Kong's first recorded case of Omicron.
So yeah, you said 0 cases is unrealistic. Man, they're doing it over there. They maybe they're handling it really well.
Stop it, Brian.
I don't know, man. Like maybe, but at what cost?
Dude.
Yeah.
Let's. But hold on.
So no and no.
Let's stay with that. Let's say that yes, Beijing was like, or
You
Kong.
said Hong Kong.
Sorry, Hong Kong.
Which also is
Let's say
really
that
China.
Hong Kong was actually like it
Don't
was.
say that to the CCP, dog.
Let's say it was actually this method was actually highly effective. Is that worth it?
No.
It's not. I mean, we're having arguments, very valid arguments
because it's
in
scary.
North America.
Like that, even as someone who like, if I got Omicron today, even though I'm boosted, I would be terrified. But having said that this ain't a world I want to live in.
Right.
Like, I don't want, dude, I would be irate if I showed up here with, like earlier today, with the 3 dogs that we bring to this office, and no offense, but both of you, and to try to go outside for to take him for a piss, and have some dude stand at the door of our office going, "Woof, no, bro, you live here for the next week."
Yeah, and we
I
actually
would be,
but like our office is like a flat too. Like we could chill and watch movies and it would be
dude,
fun.
we have a fucking
you,
arcade machine here.
Imagine you actually
Be pretty cool.
worked in a shitty office building. I can't
No,
really
it wouldn't be.
It'd be fine for a week.
It would be
It'd
fine for a week. Yeah.
week? There's no hot plate in here, but like we've
We'd
got
order
no
Uber
food.
Eats.
Oh,
We
It
can
wouldn't be
open the
that bad.
windows.
but
They
it's
can
so
throw it at them.
expensive.
It is
Yeah,
so
it would be expensive. But think about this. So I'm really struggling to imagine what that scene would actually be like, because they sort of like
Chaotic.
describe it. But what do you think is the reaction from the people inside when that happens?
Well, apparently the people of Hong Kong are pro. Hey,
It's hard to say.
Apparently, this is
Some of them.
This is what the
the Chinese news
mainstream media is saying to
I
us.
mean, the media in China is not. It's not a
Yeah.
secret that the government. It's state-run media. So
CNN goes on to say, for the past week, officials in
It's very hard
Beijing
to
have
say.
been on high alert as an Omicron outbreak spread in Tianjin, a major port city just 30 minutes away by high-speed rail. The cluster had already spread to 2 other cities hundreds of miles away. According to, this just gets scarier and scarier. According to detailed surveillance data collected by officials, the Beijing woman infected with Omicron had not come into contact with a confirmed case and hadn't left the capital in the past 14 days, raising fears that the variant may already be spreading in the community. Unlike most of
yeah.
the world,
it is.
It did. Yeah,
Unlike
it
most of the
was.
world, China is pursuing a zero COVID strategy that relies on stringent restrictions, including mass testings, lockdowns, and long quarantine for international arrivals. The single case in Beijing has identified at the worst possible time for the city as it prepares for welcoming thousands of athletes for the Olympics, including countries where Omicron is raging. The risk of the variant spreading among the local Beijing population outside its so-called Olympic bubble, intending to keep participants separate from the wider public, comes as authorities warned of the, quote, double pressure of domestic and imported cases. So here's where it gets really fucking bizarre and kind of scary. After the woman's case was confirmed, authorities sprang into action, imposing uncompromising snap lockdowns, trapping people inside, such as office blocks, and extensive contact tracing and testing in high-risk areas. The residential compound where the confirmed case lives is just 15 minutes drive from the Olympic Park. The entire community has since been sealed off while people get tested and authorities conduct environmental sampling. The residents inside are allowed fresh air, in contrast with stricter lockdowns in other parts of the country that confine people to their apartments, but they can't leave the community's limits. Trash is beginning to pile up inside the complex, with only specially designed disposal teams permitted to handle it. Many nearby businesses are closed. The woman's workplace has similarly locked down, with large tents set up outside to conduct and process COVID tests for everybody inside until the building is declared safe to reopen.
See, guys, this is exactly what, if we continue to listen to the government here, this is exactly what they're going to move towards.
Hey, whoa. Look, I like... let's not go down that road because again, like talking about this stuff is, man, people get so fucking up in arms. But like, all right, so this is the part that I read where I went, oh my god, this is actually kind of freaky. In another sign of zealous official response, the woman's travel history was published in state media.
Whoa!
With extensive detail on everywhere she went within a 2-week period. The long list includes subway stations, public bathrooms, a supermarket, a luxury shop center and Dior center or store, a famous Peking duck restaurant, a cinema, a hair salon, a stand-up comedy venue.
Are you doxing her again right now by just repeating all of the
here's the issue. Here's the issue with that I see with this, and again, 2 years on, like there's really no excuse for this in the sense that this is like, if you wanted to demolish a building downtown, you wouldn't blow it up with a nuclear bomb. Like this is a nuclear bomb.
Like I would, this would make
for a building that you want to tear down. Like it makes it's the destruction of the approach is so much more catastrophic than the thing that they're trying to prevent.
I mean, like don't get me wrong.
It's crazy.
Like COVID is not something to be fucked with.
COVID's horrible.
It has wreaked havoc on millions of families across the world.
Mm-hmm.
It is a scary thing.
Right, but we don't need to have a conversation about
this is
COVID being, scary for some people and then going, nobody can ever live ever again on the face of the earth.
This makes sense to me if this was 28 days later.
Sure.
If this was a zombie outbreak and Train to Busan was happening in Hong Kong, yeah, dude, this that makes sense to me.
COVID is horrible. There are things that we need to do as a whole society. There are things that certain populations of people need to be really aware of to protect themselves, and things that everybody else needs to be aware of to protect those populations. This is so
next level.
But
next level.
The thing that I don't understand too is the people who say well, the government's trying to do this to control people, or they think that the government is doing this because the government is going to benefit from this in some way. Nobody benefits from these types of lockdowns or restrictions. The people that are being locked down, number one, their mental health. Those people are gonna be
well, I mean,
fucked.
They go even further. So they in the article they go on to say that many cities, a lot of the cities in China are taking these really extreme measures, but they also go on to say, and this made me really sad, posts and videos on Chinese social media show several targeted snap lockdowns in Shanghai last week, trapping whoever was unfortunate enough to be in the vicinity. In one mall, shoppers were stuck for 2 days, with officials testing everybody inside and ordering a deep clean before reopening. One video posted on social media showed a woman outside the mall crying and reaching out to a small toddler staring back from behind its glass doors.
Yeah, that's fucked.
You know what I mean? Like, how fucking traumatic would that be if, like, how traumatic is that? Like you go, you like, how the fuck did that even happen? You know, like,
Yeah,
the mother goes out, opens the door, and the toddler's just behind her, and the door closes, and 2 seconds later, it's like, you're free, but everybody you know, when you're in line,
Yes.
and they're like they
Closed.
unhook the
Yeah.
fucking like rope, and they go, yeah, you're in, you're good, and they're like clicking the people, you're good, click, we got to stop, and like your friends go into the liquor store, but you can't, and you're like, fuck.
Or the toddler could have been with the other parent.
Yeah, totally.
And they could have been divided.
I mean,
but,
there's going to be.
I think it's big in China to like just let your toddler roam about, like,
that's popular.
just you can open doors by yourself, like, figure it out.
There's going to be things in every. There's going to be when we look, you know, in the future, where the way that we're handling this acutely now, there will be a time. Let's say 10, 15 years into the future, where we look back on the way that we handled this. And no matter where on the spectrum you are on how you think this is being handled now, everyone will be wrong in some way.
Yeah.
Everyone will have been wrong in some way and right in some way. And because we're not
everyone.
Everybody will. Everybody will be wrong in some respect. And we will look back and go, oh, you know, now with the benefit of hindsight, we should have handled this way, and you know, this we implemented this thing, and that had this unintended consequence of this, and that was actually worse than the thing we were preventing, or vice versa, where we weren't maybe strict enough at one time, and it cost that. There's going to be that, no doubt. Everybody's going to be wrong in some way, everybody's going to be right in some way, and how that shakes out, I don't know. But I mean, we're having that conversation now in North America, and our setup is so much better than that.
Yeah.
Like so much more reasonable than that.
I feel like Canada is doing, look, I say this with a very a very general, broad statement. I think
Except Alberta.
I think Canada, for the most part, is doing a good job. You know, and there, I'm sure there's people in Ontario that would step in and say, like, you know, fuck Doug Ford and what he's been doing. Sure, but as a whole, in general, I think Canada is doing a reasonable job at handling this. I mean, in comparison to what's going on there, like you know,
yeah. I'm just kidding. Alberta, I love you.
Alberta. Actually, this is a story.
I think what I mean by that is, like, we'll look back on our society and say that we did some things right and some things wrong, and again, this is it's a different culture, it's a different government, it's a different everything in mainland China. Like, it's hard to fathom. It's hard to fathom the unintended destruction of what these policies will have.
How funny would it be if North Korea was the one country that was doing it right?
Like they totally nailed it.
They might not even have COVID.
Yeah.
They just don't let anybody in. So
right. Is there COVID in North Korea?
Oh,
they'll never tell you.
Certainly is COVID in North Korea.
You say that, but like travel in and out of North Korea is like very limited.
Well,
somewhat.
for the people that live, for the residents of that place, but for the
you can go to North Korea.
No, I know you can, but it's not like it's not a holiday.
Well, you can go on holiday.
It's a holiday for some.
It's a holiday in the way that you're not at work.
For dark tourists. It's a whole. There's a whole. What do you call it? Market for dark tourists.
Yeah, you can go.
Yeah.
But it's not like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can go because
you're not going to chill.
One of the big attractions is like standing in.
Dennis Rodman goes to chill.
Those big,
you know, like there are people going to chill.
You know those big concrete balconies that, like, the big buildings, concrete buildings with the balconies with like their big red curtains.
Yes,
you can actually go there and like stand as the tanks roll by and all the soldiers march, and it's like a really cool, unique thing to see.
I think it's pretty safe to say COVID. There's not a place on the planet that doesn't have.
I'm just gonna give it a quick goog, but you carry on.
Let's move on to Ding Dong of the Week. Ding Dong. This is the first time we're doing this where there is no choice. This is the ding dong. All right.
Oh, okay.
So anti-vax leader.
Is that not the point of Ding Dong of the week?
I mean, I just couldn't find anything else. Like no one could top this fuck.
This guy just emerged as a clear victor.
This guy's the winner.
I've got the other guy. I've got the second guy for you. I'll just tell you a quick
All
story.
right, great. Anti-vax leader urges people to drink their urine instead of get vaccine.
Never mind. My guy won't beat him.
Guys, I just want to let you know that's similar to the way that people deny that Kim Jong Un
Is a great leader?
defecates.
Oh, yeah.
North Korea also completely denies any positive COVID cases since January 2020.
Believe it.
Yeah.
Some anti-vaxxers will do anything to avoid taking the coronavirus vaccine, including reportedly drinking their own piss. The Daily Beast reports that prominent figure of the anti-COVID-19 community, Christopher Key, who calls himself the vaccine police, dude, this guy's such a fucking wanker, is now telling his followers to drink their own urine in order to cure themselves of COVID-19.
You think that's a troll?
No, this is the POS we're talking about.
Oh,
right
never
now.
mind.
Sweet plays,
This guy
though.
most certainly is not a troll.
Kind of looks like an older, shittier Corey from the morning show.
You know what this picture looks like? It looks like the post interview at Judge Judy, and
Yeah, it
they're asking
does.
him why he lost, and he's trying to
Guys,
explain why.
we need to wear more V-necks with blazers.
What a fucking ding dong. As the highly transmissible Omicron variant tears through the country, it has largely been the unvaccinated who have become seriously ill and who are filling hospital beds and dying on ventilators. For the vaccinated, a bout with Omicron, while unpleasant, is mild enough to be comparable to the flu or the common cold, which it is itself a coronavirus. Because
Where's this article from?
Dude, that whole I have so many issues with that fucking paragraph, but
whatever.
Just continue.
Because anti-vaxxers refuse to take the coronavirus shots, they have turned to increasingly bizarre methods of treating the virus, generally with little success. Quote, the antidote that we have seen now, and we have tons and tons of research, is urine therapy. Okay, I know to a lot of you this sounds crazy, but guys, God's given us everything we need, Mr. Key said in a video posted to his Telegram account. He made the video shortly after being released from jail for trespassing in a Whole Foods. Fuck this guy, man. Mr. Key
Trespassing into Whole Foods?
Yeah.
Like, what time of day was he?
I think he was probably
middle of the
previously
day.
banned.
Middle of the day. Mr. Key said he refused to wear a mask in the store and he was asked to leave. When he refused, the store reported for trespassing and he was arrested. Mr. Key has been traveling across the country with the stated goal of conducting citizen arrests on Democratic governors over their vaccine mandates. He presents doubters with, quote, papers outlining his belief that the coronavirus is a bioweapon. When asked how he had the authority to arrest governors, he claimed that the government is, quote, we the people. He said he planned to arrest Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards on the 7th of February if the governor does not back off his vaccine mandates, particularly those aimed at children. He told his supporters that urine therapy has, quote, been around for centuries, but noted that he understood if people thinks he is cray-cray.
That's what he said?
Yeah, quote, cray-cray.
Do you guys feel bad about, like, talking about this guy and laughing about this stuff?
You mean because he's clearly mentally ill?
Yes. Yeah.
No, I don't. No, I don't.
I mean, now that you say it a little bit, but
I don't think he's clearly mentally ill. I think he's clearly misinformed.
it is a little bit not the right. I agree with you, Jared, in the way that it's not the right thing to do just to dismiss everything that seems crazy as mentally ill.
Yeah.
I
He's
agree with
just
that
a
too.
piece of shit.
I agree with
This
that
guy,
too. I
this
just
guy's
feel sad.
just a piece of shit.
I feel sad.
I feel A-okay with laughing out loud, lolling at this guy. He, quote, said, now drink urine. He said, this vaccine is the worst bioweapon I've ever seen. I drink my own urine.
Like out of all the other bioweapons that he's seen in
Do you
his
think
life.
that's a misinformed person or a mentally ill person?
After
Craig, drink your own urine,
I don't know.
bioweapons.
Honestly, I don't know. Mr. Key called people who get the coronavirus vaccine foolish, but drinking piss is not, even though it is a safe and effective way to protect oneself from the coronavirus symptoms. Quote, the vaccine police conspiracy theorist raised concerns when he shared a Telegram post showing off his sizable arsenal, which includes high-capacity firearms as well as a flamethrower. This guy isn't fully all there for sure. Prior to his road trip trespassing conviction and urine evangelism, he entered the national eye after threatening to execute pharmacists for administering the coronavirus vaccine.
Can't do that.
Can we just like
He's not well.
Can we at least just like for like 10 seconds pay a moment of our respects to the folks with mental illnesses that we would feel really bad about this before we just laugh about this, because like it is really funny, but I also feel bad. But then once I can feel bad,
I hear what
then
you're
I can
saying.
laugh.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But again, let's just
Yeah. It's a cool photo. In the
we'll
background.
just if you're only listening to this, we're just looking at a photo of him. So
Okay.
But when I read that, so Mr. Key, you are Ding Dong of the Week. Congratulations. Go fuck yourself. But reading that article, I was like, well, drinking your pee can't be that good. It can't.
I don't think it's bad for you.
Well, it is.
Or
It is.
Is it harmful?
Yeah, it's not good for you.
What do we know about it for sure?
I looked it up.
I thought it was sterile and
So this is
everything.
there's a lot of misconceptions about drinking your piss, and I don't know if this was like locked in the recesses of my brain somewhere way back, but back in 2018 there was a large sort of influx of stories posted to various news websites about the misconceptions of drinking your own piss. In 2018, drinking your own piss was like the eating Tide Pods story, where it was like all these people were like, drink pee, like drinking pee you're not cool unless you drink your pee. And so I went back and I found an article that was around this time. It was from BBC, and the article is titled, "Please, can everyone stop drinking their own urine?"
God, this completely missed me.
Yeah, so say hello to the latest health fad. It's even yellower than a turmeric latte and more bitter than a charcoal lemonade. Yep, it's urine. It's drinking your own urine. While drinking your own pee seems like the kind of thing you'd only do if you were trapped on a mountain or stranded in a desert somewhere, it looks like people have started gulping down the golden stuff in the privacy of their own homes.
Holy fuck me.
For example, Kaylee Oakley, a 33-year-old yoga teacher from Newington, Kent, claims drinking her own urine has given her relief from a number of long-term health issues, including autoimmune disorder, the autoimmune disorder Hashimoto's thyroid disease, and chronic pain condition fibromyalgia. Here's a tweet that she put up from a Twitter account that's called Yoga is Sexy. That's an entirely different conversation, but yoga teacher drinks own pee every morning and claims it cured her fibromyalgia and cleared her skin. That's her gulping down the wee there. If you're watching on YouTube,
if you knew that I could do that for sure, like you were guaranteed that you would get those effects, would you drink your own pee to get them?
Probably.
If there was rigorous scientific studies
but you know
that
what
were done to test that amongst a large population,
there ain't that. That's for sure.
There ain't that.
She tells Press Association she started drinking her own pee, which some people call urine therapy, but is also known as urophagia, which sounds like a disorder. 2 years ago, she said, "I heard that urine can reset the immune system, promote general good health, and is good for the skin," she says.
Now, if you just heard that it could do that, would you drink your own pee?
No.
Guys, we can't talk about this person. They're clearly mentally ill.
Oh my God,
come
Ryan,
on, man.
stop it.
So she gave it a go, and not only does she drink a jar of fresh wee every day, she also uses cotton wool to dab it all over her face, which she claims keeping her skin glowing.
Dude, have you guys seen? Oh man, we should have had the scene from Land of the Lost.
Oh yeah.
When he's like, talking, he's like, the T-Rex, they can't detect your smell if you pour their urine all over you. So he takes this fucking jug of piss and he's pouring it all over his face, and he's like, burns. It really burns the eyes. Oh God.
Really
Leah
funny
said that weighing surprisingly, Kaylee isn't the only person to promote the benefits of urophagia recently. Just last week, Leah Sampson, a 46-year-old woman from Alberta, Canada,
Please tell me she's not a yoga teacher.
told The Sun that drinking her own urine helped her lose half her body weight. Leah said that weighing almost 120 kilograms left her desperate for a fix, which led her to wonder whether urine could help. Quote, she said,
probably the only factor involved.
and probably just that. She didn't eat anything for a solid 7 weeks and
Or
just
also
drank piss.
drinking your pee would probably make you throw up.
Yeah. She was quoted saying, "My friend sent me a YouTube video link of the urine therapy." She said, "I stood up in the bathtub, urinated into my hands, and drank it.
Oh,
I noted
Lord.
immediately that I ingested too much sodium and vowed to begin removing sodium from my diet immediately." She not only drinks urine, but also gargles it in the mornings when she brushes her teeth. And
Holy-
Why would you even bother brushing teeth?
And uses it as eye drops.
No,
Dude,
stop
do
it.
you think the friend that sent it
Come
to her originally
on.
was like,
Was
this
actually
is
an
fucking
enemy?
funny?
Was actually an enemy.
This is
God,
funny. And then
dude,
the
this
person was like, yeah.
this is too much.
So here's and this might surprise you. Doctors don't recommend it.
I'm curious though, as somebody, Jer, who's very sex positive and very accepting of people's kinks, in the kink community where people engage in sexual stuff around peeing on one another and drinking pee and stuff like that, that's cool. But like, is it weird when you're doing it for health reasons?
Well, that's cool if you're into it, and also, I mean, I don't know.
If it turns you on, it's cool. But if you're doing it because you think you're getting health benefits,
I don't
from
think it turns you on to. Let me.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't. For a lot of people, the turn on isn't. I'm going to fill a mason jar full of piss and chug it.
Yeah.
It's. I want to be covered in your excrement. I want to be covered in
and
your
if
leakage.
If that turns you on, that's cool.
Sure.
But
Also,
dude,
just a turn on is totally subjective, whereas health benefits are objective.
I have
yes,
no
yeah.
problem.
That's why I'm just helping to clarify.
If I was reading an article right now that was like,
because you were concerned that there was probably maybe some people in the kink community that were upset at the conversation.
that are mentally ill. Right?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you thought,
That's exactly
right?
what I'm saying. Yeah.
All people that are into piss kinks are mentally ill. Fucking water play, water sports are mentally ill people.
That's not what I was saying.
Look,
I'm saying if you gargle it for pleasure, you're cool. If you gargle it for health benefits,
if you gargle
you're
it
crazy.
for pleasure, you're doing that like once every one. You're doing that, maybe 2 or 3 times in a week if you're fucking a bunch.
That sounds active.
If you're fucking a lot, right? But also I think that is different from going, I have now vowed. All right, so that's different from this.
My name is Carrie. I'm 53 years old. I'm from Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I'm addicted to drinking my urine.
Addicted to it.
I drink it like I'm in a beer drinking contest. It's easier to drink than water.
For the past 4 years, Carrie has been drinking nearly all of her urine.
Got to be my strange addiction.
It started as just 1 glass in the morning. Now she consumes up to 5 glasses every day.
I like warm pee. It's comforting.
Oh my.
That's sad.
Cheers, Carrie.
God.
Cheers.
Come
That
on.
looks like urine.
That is sad.
That is really sad, eh? It's interesting though how you can look at it through 2 different lenses. Though,
Well, actually,
because
you know what?
if you look at it through one lens where you're like, oh, this is a kink, you can look at it and go, cool. If you're into that, that's sweet.
I'm
if
not
you
gonna
look at
say
it like
it's-
you think that's a health benefit, and the 2 people are doing the same thing, then they're crazy.
I'm looking at Carrie and I want to know now. Before I want to take back saying it's sad, and I want to say it's definitely fucking gross.
to you,
But
obviously not
Yeah,
to her.
I think-
obviously not to Carrie.
obviously,
yeah.
obviously not to
Carrie.
Carrie. It's gross to
You.
the average person.
Yeah.
I think that's a safe bet. Is it harmful to carry?
So
That's what I want to know.
Okay, so
And if it's not, then okay, carry on with your thing.
Carry on, carry.
It is harmful to carry.
Carry on.
But
Carry on.
here's my stance. Carry, all the power to you. Keep drinking your piss. I watched that entire clip, which is actually a 17-minute clip, and Carrie just drinks piss because she likes drinking piss.
Yeah.
If you just like drinking piss, fucking drink your piss.
Sure.
That's cool.
She doesn't think it's going to cure any disease.
No, it's these dopes
Right.
who are going, well, I heard like Jeffrey at my office said that like drinking my pee would help my fibromyalgia. Dude, shut the fuck
and
up.
Carrie's not trying to get anybody else to
No,
drink
she's
their
like,
piss.
I just drink my pee because I did it once and was like, oopsie,
Guys,
I like this.
I love how we can be so open-minded going into this, because really what we found is that what we once thought of, 10 minutes ago in one way of being, this is disgusting, these people are idiots. Now we've looked at it in a bunch. It's so nuanced, you can have the kink community who pees on one another. That's beautiful. You can have the people who drink their own piss because they just enjoy drinking piss. That's totally fine too.
Is Carrie
You have
okay?
the people who drink it because they think it's curing their fibromyalgia.
Yeah.
Those people are fucking mentally ill.
I don't know.
And we shouldn't laugh about them.
I don't know if Carrie's okay because I haven't followed up with her, but maybe we can get her on the show. Now
she's not ill.
We
don't have to have her on the show. She's fine.
Yeah, I think she has. I wouldn't say she's not ill.
If you're addicted to drinking pee, there's something going on.
there's an
Are you
illness.
addicted to orange juice? or
addiction's an
coffee
illness.
or
Yeah.
And is that
I'm
fine?
addicted to nicotine.
Well,
That's not good.
I mean, if it's adversely affecting her health.
So wait, do we know is drinking your own pee bad for you?
Now, despite the sudden plethora of people gulping down the salty stuff, many doctors agree that it's not particularly good for you. For one thing, urine is essentially a waste product, meaning that it's made up of a mix of water and stuff your body has already worked hard to get rid of. Quote, it's a common belief that urine is sterile, which it normally is if you don't have a problem with your renal tract, says Dr. Zubair Ahmed, who told BBC Three this. He went on to say, however, once it leaves the body, it can be contaminated with certain bacteria, and ingesting this bacteria can make you feel unwell and can lead to serious complications. Infection risks aside, Dr. Ahmed adds, there's actually no medical evidence to show urophagia benefits your health in any way.
Of course not.
He said, quote, urination is one way where our body gets rid of toxic byproducts, he explains. There is no evidence at all that ingesting these substances has any health benefits.
Say it more firmly, just in case there's somebody out there.
I just really want Mr. Key to hear this. While drinking a small amount of urine is unlikely to be hazardous to your health, there's not enough modern evidence of its efficacy to suggest drinking it is healthy. And Dr. Andrew Thornburg warns that you risk reintroducing dangerous waste products back into your system when you drink pee. So the whole point, he said, quote, the whole point of urinating is for the kidneys to filter the blood, and it gets rid of any excess fluid and salts, as well as minerals. Urine is in a healthy person is made up of about 95% water, but the other 5% is waste products the body is looking to expel, such as potassium and nitrogen, which, if you have too much in your body, can actually cause problems. When you drink urine, it will eventually come back out again and be much more concentrated, which could lead to gut problems, he said. The kidneys will have to work even harder to filter out all the excess again, putting strain on them.
Guys,
you're really just like fucking your kidneys over by drinking your piss.
I'm clearly not a scientist, but in my layperson understanding of how the body works, if you eat food and drink water and stuff, and that stuff goes into your stomach, and then your body processes it, and your kidneys take out the nutrients that it needs, and then the waste product is expelled eventually through urinating. The stuff that you urinated out was already in your body. So if there was some health benefit to that, wouldn't you have received that through your body absorbing the benefiting health?
That sounds reasonably
nutrients
logical.
through the first time you consumed the food or whatever. So it doesn't really make sense to me that you'd just be putting that stuff back in.
Wait, you don't get it, Bri?
No, I don't.
Loser.
But again, I don't know anything about anything. So
I'd say give it I'd say give it 6 months, and we're gonna start seeing anti-vaxxers eating their own shit.
That's probably not a. That's not a crazy prediction.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Feel Good Friday. We are coming at you every week, Mondays with our OG conversations with people living with illness, Wednesdays where we speak to healthcare professionals about the things that they focus on, and of course these Friday episodes where we talk about people drinking their own pee. We are a very broad range podcast. We cover a whole bunch of fascinating shit, and we're so glad that you're a part of the community. And again, if you want to be deeper in the community, if you really want to be a part of it, check out our Discord. It's super easy to do. You can click the link in the show notes of the episode in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, or right here on YouTube. And of course, if you follow us on Instagram at Sick Boy Podcast, you can find it in our link there in the bio. We really appreciate all of the support that has come from all of you, and we really thank you for listening every single episode, every single week. And if you want to support the podcast further, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you're on Spotify, now you can leave ratings on Spotify. You can do it from the mobile app only, I believe. So if you're listening on your phone, open up your Spotify. Right under the main page of Sick Boy, you can leave a 5-star review.
And if you're thinking about joining the Discord, but you're like, I don't know how to start doing that, we have a section in there that's introducing yourself and getting to know everybody. And you know what it's like? If you felt like you didn't really want to go to a party and then you did, and then you had the best time ever.
It's guaranteed that.
It's like guaranteed. It's guaranteed that you just have to get over that little hump of saying, "Hey, my name is blank," and then everybody is so nice. Everyone will welcome you in.
And
right?
we're some of those people that will,
and we are some of those
welcome
people.
you in. Yeah, we're looking forward to connecting with you there.
Yeah, and we want to know what the weirdest thing is that you've ever put in your mouth to drink or eat. And you can do that by sending a letter to letters@sickboypodcast.com. The absolute weirdest thing that's ever been in that chomper of yours. Let us know. Or if you have something that's a little bit more related to the things that we talk about in general on this podcast, like living with illness. Letters@sickboypodcast.com. Or if you want to be a guest on the show, go to sickboypodcast.com/contact.
Just to clarify, were you looking for edible things in your mouth or like non-edible things too?
Well, I mean, you know what? I don't want to close off. I don't want to close off the door to anybody. So
Sweet.
Whatever.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and thanks to the people who make the show happen. Thanks to Donovan, the Meerkat Morgan, for the amazing sound design that he does on our Monday episodes, to Rich O'Coin for the theme music on these episodes, to Take Part for the theme music on our Monday episodes, to Jeff Lonis for managing this podcast, to Lauren Sankey, because I just miss her and I really like her.
Saw her on the weekend, though. That was great.
To you guys for doing all the work that you do.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.